This episode is sponsored in part by PTZOptics. Why hire a camera operator when the control is in your hands? Visit PTZOptics.com for more information. And by NewTek, makers of the TriCaster TC1. Stun your viewers, not your accountant. Visit newtek.com for more information.
Hey guys, welcome to another edition of Salt Talk, the show that talks about everything that has to do with houses of worship, ministry related video, audio. I don't want to sound like Radio Shack, but a boatload of know-how. At least that's what we're going to try to do. So today we have a special show. If you haven't clicked the link in the chat, I'm actually going to go, my Zoom kind of had a hiccup. I'm going to go get the Zoom back up, and we're going to get everybody back in from the Zoom room. I'm joined by my co-host, Mr. Greg Terry.
What's going on, Stephen? Nice to see you. And there we go. Thank you, my friend. I'll tell you what, guys, Zoom, it's nice, but when you're trying to do this, what Stephen's doing over there in the magical wonderland of his studio, it's quite intensive. So thank you for being here. Seeing you guys jump in from all over. Parker Jennings, hello to you. We've got some great guests going to be here. We see others trying to connect right now. JRO, if you're hearing me, I see you trying to connect to your audio. Maybe recycle it and reset it, and we'll get you in here. So, guys, you are invited to join us and to come in today. We're going to be talking not only about, as Stephen said, all things in regard to church streaming and how to help you do your best ministry for the King of Kings, but as well, maybe a review on your Easter. If you're on the Western calendar, of course, we've come out of the Palm Sunday. We have just finished our Easter celebration. If you're in Europe or you're on the Orthodox calendar, of course, you just celebrated Palm Sunday, and this weekend will be your Easter celebration. Regardless, we are at that time of year where we're celebrating the resurrection of Christ, and that is what, to be honest, this entire world is about. So today, going to be pretty fun, pretty interesting. I know Stephen is over there. I can't see him. Typically, I can because I have another monitor feed here where I can see him, but I can't see him right now. He's over resetting the Zoom. And hold on, I got more coming in here. There we go. Oh, welcome to you. There we go. We're getting it back in now. I see him working. So, as we're prepping, if you're here and you see the link, it's pinned in the YouTube chat. It's pinned in Facebook. If you're watching on Facebook, please feel free to jump in, join us. Guys are jumping in now, and it's going to be a good time. So, Jim connecting to audio. Steve, you're here. I see you. I see Mr. iPhone in the pink shirt. I see you there, friend. I don't know what your name is, but welcome. And of course, Phil Thompson's going to be with us today as well. Ray B jumping in from Indiana. And we're going to have Stephen back with us in just a moment. For us here in Pennsylvania, and yes, I'm delaying for a moment, we had a wonderful Easter celebration.
I'm back. No, listen, this is pretty awesome. So
there we go.
I've been able to get everybody up and going. Here's the Zoom crew. We got them all up here. There's Phil from streamingchurch.tv. There's Steve Lacey. What's going on, guys?
Hey. Good morning.
It's getting hot here in Arizona. We're not happy about that. It's too soon.
Well, I'm so glad you guys could join us. Unfortunately, I don't know what happened. My MacBook Pro decided it was going to do an update right in the middle of the show. So I had to resort to my PC. So I'm glad you guys were patient. Greg, thanks for keeping us going here. But I want to let everybody know, if you want to join, the link is pinned. It's on both Facebook and YouTube. You can jump in. I invited the guys from streamingchurch.tv to come here because I don't know if a lot of you guys know who they are. They're going to be joining us next month for Salt Talk to give you an in-depth look into what they have to offer. But Phil, or you or Steve, or both of you want to just kind of jump us off here and let everybody know what you guys do. So in case somebody's interested, let's get the ball rolling here.
All right. Well, I'll start it out. I'm Steve Lacey, and the founder and CEO of StreamingChurch.tv. We got started actually 22 years ago, serving churches with technology. We've been around for a long time. We only serve the church market. And so all of our staff are believers and understand how the churches work. So we provide a unique opportunity to work with the churches and understand what's going on, not outside of the tech and as well as inside the tech. So let me give you a little brief. StreamingChurch.tv, we provide live streaming for churches. So churches that want to broadcast their services, they'll contact us and we will help them every step of the way. We provide the platform and the streaming background or streaming back end for them.
Well, that's really awesome because I know a lot of people because you do Roku as well, right?
Yes. Roku and Apple TV. So yeah, if you're streaming with us, we have multiple platforms that your stream will end up on. So yep.
And I know you guys, you had me on last month. You guys do like a monthly webinar as well to also do kind of like what we're doing here, right? To help the house of worship market, find out some interesting tools as well as, just help them in general, right?
Exactly. Phil, you want to add to that?
Not really. No. Well, Steve and I go back. I have to excuse my humor. It's some dysfunctional thing my psychologist tells me. So Steve and I go back a long ways. We met in probably the mid '90s at a church I was on staff on, and then I went away to Kansas. I'm actually from the Youngstown, Ohio area, by the way. But I moved out to Arizona in the late '70s. So anyhow, long story short, when I moved to Kansas and started a church in Kansas, of all places, that's when Steve actually started the company. And I think we were maybe the second customer back in 2001, somewhere in that neck of the woods. And then when I came back here in 2008, I began to work with Steve. And I do mainly customer support. I do some tech support. Streaming video is really our specialty, but we have mobile apps, we have church management systems and some other things as well. So it's just a pleasure to do this. And I've been working out of my home, well, since I came back here, and everybody's been working out of their home when the pandemic hit. But for me and for us, for the most part, we work out of our homes and we use all this stuff and all this technology now. So it's a fun thing to do. I love helping churches use technology. And we don't just do tech stuff. We have a podcast called the Church Solutions Podcast, which you alluded to, Stephen, earlier, which covers tech stuff, but also covers ministry stuff because all of us on staff here have been involved in ministry and pastoral work. And so we provide resources, not just the tech stuff, but ministry things with our blog. We have a blog called blog.streamingchurch.tv. So we have a lot of little things going on there, which we think really helps bring some resources to people involved in ministry.
Awesome. Well, it's great to have you guys on the panel today. And anybody that's in the Zoom room, if you got any questions, how can they get in touch? What's the best way?
You can send us an email, support@streamingchurch.tv, support@streamingchurch.tv. You can go to the website and chat. If we're not on chat at the time, you can still chat and leave a message. We'll get contacted and we'll respond to your chat. So the website's streamingchurch.tv. Remember, streamingchurch.tv. There's another company out there that changed their name a few years ago to sound like us, but we're not them. We're streamingchurch.tv. We're the originals.
And I don't know, Phil, I've known you for, a long time. You and I have been connected some way, somehow we got connected. I don't know if it was my broadcast shows or I forget how we got in touch.
It was the podcast. We've been doing podcasts for over 10 years. We've been doing a lot of podcasts over the years. And so the Church Solutions Podcast, I'm pretty sure that's where it was. I don't know. It's kind of funny. We're both from the same neck of the woods. Yeah. Originally, but that's not where we met. So I think it was through the podcast.
It's always scary. That's how Greg Terry got wrapped up with me here.
Oh, wow.
Well,
Okay.
one of the things I appreciate about Phil was the statement that he just made. And I think you guys know, I always try to push this side, but streaming is streaming. But if we lose sight of ministry, you're wasting your time. So I'm very appreciative for Phil's comment there. We want to equip people to be able to minister the gospel. So much love on that comment. That's what it's about.
Who else? Who else do we have in the Zoom room here? Because I can't really see everybody. So
We've got Ray Brenner. We've got Jim. We have a very nice looking gentleman here in a pink shirt with a white wall behind him, but his name is iPhone. So I want to say hi to iPhone there, but his name's not on the description.
Well, you guys can feel free to jump in. Any of the guys in the Zoom. Do you have any questions, guys, on the Zoom call that maybe it's a previous show that we've done? Maybe it's something you'd like us to do, to bring in some experts on things, or did you have an utter disaster with your Easter service this past weekend? I can honestly say we didn't.
Negative.
So everything went smooth here. I just was curious to do this because I know a lot of guys wanted to do this. So we got to get the ball rolling here. We got to get some people talking here. Right?
Yeah. And all topics are open for us. I mean, I was just talking to Phil. We have someone that attended a webinar yesterday where we were helping their mother get the channel going on their Roku. So it was like, can you talk to my mom? She doesn't know. So we've done from tech stuff to, Phil's been in ministry his whole life and pastor. And so, so tech stuff or even ministry stuff, we're equipped.
Well, that's why I figured you guys would be great to bring on in the, as a resource for the community is also, obviously what you're doing, right? So we wanted to bring you guys on here. We get questions all the time. What's the biggest hang up? So why don't we get started? Maybe somebody in the chat will jump in, or somebody in the Zoom here will jump in. But let me ask you guys, what has been your biggest call for a customer wanting to do? Is it usually like they have no clue what they want to do and they're hoping you're going to solve everything? Or is there that one call that sticks out to you guys that a church is calling and they're yelling help?
So you want to take it? I have one on the top of mind, but go ahead.
Well, if you've got one on the top of your head, that's fine. I mean, Steve Bonds' mother was the one you just alluded to was one.
I love Steve Bonds.
Yeah, he's awesome, right? I mean, he really is. We've known him for years. But that was his mother we were talking about. Yeah. But no, Steve, go ahead. I mean, we get calls all the time. They're all over the map, Yeah,
the most common, the most popular one is my stream is buffering, and what's going on your end? Why is my stream buffering? So that's probably the most common problem that we run into.
Yeah. I mean, we've gotten goofy things like we'll get an email or something that says it doesn't work.
Oh yeah, I love those comments.
It's like, okay,
can we narrow that down?
Is it? I see dead people. I don't know. What does that mean? I don't. So we get. I mean, if you've done, and Stephen, I know you know this, and Greg, I'm not familiar with you, but when you do any kind of tech support, most people, and this is true in life, right? Most people don't know how to ask the right question, even in life, right? And so you have to kind of go through the weeds to help people ask the right question so you can try to give them the right answer. And so that's always a struggle with us, at least with me anyhow, is like, okay, what is it you're saying here? What are you looking for? So there's just challenges all over the map. I mean,
they've typically been through several things on their own, and the last resort, or for them, is I got to reach out to these guys. And so they've gone through a bunch of stuff, and they just blurt out. They're frustrated, and they blurt out, "It doesn't work." And that's where we got to go. Okay, what doesn't work, and kind of let's walk it back. And so, yeah.
I had one instance back with Telestream when this lady called in and she said she installed our software and it broke the computer. That was the ticket. broke the computer. So I call her up. She's like, I don't know what it was, but I installed it. And she said, my computer just shut down. And that's not normal. You know, it doesn't ask you to restart or anything. And I said, well, ma'am, are you sure? She's like, yep, all the lights are out, monitors blinking at me like it's gone, she says. So, you know, talking to her, checking things
the
out.
The reality is most folks, Stephen, and I know Phil and Steve know this, they just don't understand the complexity sometimes of what they see on a stream, or they watch on a TV, or they see some other church, or maybe a podcast, and they want to duplicate it, or they want to do something similar. But when the actual complexity of what is needed, and, you know, I've done lots of installs, especially now rolling with PTZOptics out west. Number one issue I've seen is the integration between video and audio. That's the beast for people.
Yeah, that's true.
Is that out of sync, or is that syncing issues, or is it a syncing issue? Because we do get that as well. That can be a challenge.
Not a syncing issue. It's more. It can be sometimes, but many times it's just okay. We can buy a pretty good camera and get a nice stream going, and we've got bandwidth. But man, the audio coming in from the worship just doesn't sound right, and the pastor doesn't sound right. How can we fix that? So that's typically what I run into trying to help people with audio.
Well, for me, it was the lady had a cat after about 20 minutes, and the cat tripped over the power strip and hit the power button. But I have a gentleman driving in the car. Hey, man, I hope you're being safe there. What's going on? What's your name?
My name is Kenneth. I'm from Oklahoma.
Hey, what's going on, Jeff? You have a question, or you want to interject anything?
No, I just wanted to join the live today. I was hoping you guys would maybe go over a little bit about the CMP from PTZOptics, but if not, that's okay. I downloaded it last week and I was having a little trouble.
Yeah, I know Paul and Tess the other day they did a show on it, and so that's archived on YouTube. So I'd suggest going over this show. We kind of don't focus on like the PTZOptics software, hardware stuff. That's more or less we don't want to duplicate shows, right? So that's what the PTZOptics show does.
Right, I got you. Cool.
Did you see that one?
Which one? Question in the chat.
I'm asking Kenneth, did he see that?
Oh.
I think I
chat.
Yeah, if you don't mind dropping a link, or I could find it. I'm sure it's not that hard to find.
I'll drop a link in the chat for you.
Yeah,
thank you.
Yeah, they go over pretty in depth. Hey, how's it going from BC, Canada? Samuel Culp. So, but yeah, I mean, when you get into support things, you know, it's always tough. It's like even on the gun, on the fly, just like today, right? We're doing this. I had the Zoom running on the machine for an hour and a half. Phil, all of a sudden, it just done. It kicked me out of Zoom, and yeah. So, but that's the importance of backups, right? I always tell people, if you can have a spare computer ready, willing, and able to get that up and going, right?
Yep, absolutely. Greg, getting back to your audio comment,
yes, sir.
And you know this, I mean, we do streaming video, obviously, as our specialty, but I always tell everybody, your audio is in some ways more important than your streaming video quality, because if you have terrible audio, you can have the greatest video in the world, but if people can't hear, or it's garbled, the audio is garbled or something, they're not going to stick around. But if you have video that's okay, may not be the greatest quality, but it's okay, but the audio's there and the audio is crystal clear, then you're moving in the right direction. And I think that's what a lot of people don't quite get that if they're new when it comes to streaming video.
People will be very forgiving. And Jim, I see your question in the chat. I'll give it in a second, but people will be forgiving on video. They will be forgiving on a lag, but audio,
right?
No, because people can even just kind of zoom out, unfocus on video, and still enjoy and be ministered to through the audio. So, when I help churches, I tell them, I say, listen, guys, I'll help you, but it's going to be, we need to take care of the audio equally with the video.
And I'm sure
Check
Kenneth
this question
appreciates that driving down the road right now. Kenneth, you shouldn't be looking at the video while you're driving. You should be listening to the audio only. So anyhow, sorry. Go ahead, Craig or Greg or
Yeah.
Okay, so guys, there's a question here from
Is it in the
Jim.
Zoom chat?
We have a
Yeah.
in the Zoom chat.
Okay.
We have a PTZ USB 20X camera running version 27 of OBS. We streamed to Facebook. We installed the NDI plugin to display slides from our MacBook. During the stream, we have a lot of drop frames. We have an older version of iOS on the MacBook. Do not remember. Are there any software minimums to get this to work properly?
So that's the number one thing to look for is drop frames is typically not the computer, but your internet connection. So that we've experienced. It's one of the telltale signs. If it's dropping frames, that means it's not able to encode and send the thing out. So
I'd also be curious to see what your CPU is at.
right. That's what I was going to say too. Yeah. What's your processor doing?
And also sometimes what could happen is with these encoders, people don't understand the encoders. Their camera's capable of doing 1080p 30, and they've got it set to 4K 60 or 1080p 60, and it's dropping frames because your camera's set to 30, so it's dropping 30 frames a second, and which is then overloading the CPU. So there's a lot of variables in this. My rule of thumb always is anytime you're using streaming software, never ever go above 60%, or you're just asking for trouble. I don't care what the manufacturer says. As these guys have been saying, internet plays a big role in it. So you start going over that 60%, it's really hard to determine what's actually causing the problem. But it's process of elimination. I would go through each of those steps and eliminate.
May I interject also? And I'm not a salesman or a proponent of anything, but Stephen, you know that we've run OBS and we've run it. I have side by side with, for example, Vmix.
Correct.
And Vmix will handle and encode and drop nothing when OBS is dropping. So it could also, there's multiple variables there, but also maybe take a peek at maybe a different way to encode instead of just OBS.
And we recommend, if you're doing church services, there's usually not a lot of movement. You don't need 60 frames per second. You don't need super high bandwidth.
Agreed.
So, because it's usually a talking head or pastor, so there's the requirements aren't really high on the encoding side. So you shouldn't set your encoder to 60 frames a second and super high bandwidth.
Unless you got a basketball game going on.
Unless you have a basketball game going at church, or your worship leader is running around.
You're at now, guys.
Yeah, I guess so.
My church, we've got to have some exactly. Phil's got it.
So there's actually there's a question here in the Facebook chat from Samuel over there in British BC, Canada. He says, is there better software to use in Zoom for streaming? And if you had bad audio, how can you fix this issue? Again, this is and Greg, if you're able to let those guys, it looks like there's some more people trying to come in. This is a broad question. I think all the guys that are mic'd up here are going to say this is because you have two factors here, right? You have Zoom. We're using Zoom right now, and I don't think the audio is bad per se. Like and the video, I don't like all the UI stuff, which you could say I crop a lot of that out. But we're
pause.
Yes, sir.
You're not just using Zoom.
No, we're using You're coming in on live to air.
Zoom. Yeah.
So we're using two call-in systems. We're using my professional live to air, which is a lot better audio codecs. It's built for broadcasting, right? It's a very hyped up Skype. That's the best way I could explain it for non-technical people. And then we're using Zoom because everybody understands Zoom. I could throw a link in there. You all can come in, and Steve talks. It switches to him, and everybody else talks. It switches to them. So it works like that. So it's really nice for us for this three-way box and to be able to connect with the community. Is the audio bad before it hits Zoom? That's the question I want to know. What do you guys have to say? Any other?
That's yeah. When we're having audio issues at our church, and I'm not the sound guy, but I watch the trail of events, and they do exactly what you're saying. You know, they'll start at the end of the stream and then start working their way up till they find out where the problem's occurring. So, you know, they'll go to this piece of equipment. Okay, it's in this mixer. Is it coming into the mixer? Okay. Is it going out of the mixer? Okay. Is okay. Then this next piece of equipment. Oh, we've got a bad cable that's coming from here to there. That's at least the diagnostics that I watch happen at our church whenever there's an audio issue.
Yeah, I mean, Greg, you know the audio issues that can come from any. I mean, so this is kind of wide open. And Samuel, he goes on.
I would, Samuel, to help answer your question, and I know the other guys on the panel also have great advice. But if you're responsible for this, or you are, let's say, friends with your audio engineer, where you can talk with them personally and say, okay, I was watching this stream from PTZOptics, I'll talk, and maybe focus on these areas. We need to learn more. Audio engineers for church have to be learners, continually learning. B, I would focus on 3 areas to improve audio on all spectrums, and that would be gain structure, equalization, and compression. So if you're going to take time and educate yourself, don't worry about watching the YouTube video about what this fader does or this brand versus this brand. Begin to educate yourself on simple gain structure, simple EQ, simple compression, and I promise you, your audio will get better. I promise.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, real quick, I'm probably going to get us off track, but there's a question here about Vmix being better than OBS. Shameless plug. We're having a webinar May 16th, and we're going to talk about software encoders, and our special guest is Heath Barker, who is from Vmix Down Under. So I'm plugging something. I don't know if I have permission.
No, you could. Yeah, absolutely.
Do it anyhow.
No.
But so if you're interested in that webinar, I don't know if we have it up, Steve. Do we have it up? But if people want to sign up for it, is it online yet or not, as far as the sign up goes?
If the old sign up is still there, since we just finished the webinar yesterday.
Weren't you supposed to fix that? Weren't you?
It's on the list for today.
All right. Well,
the recording is up for the webinar, but the registration for the next one,
yeah,
you can probably still register there, and it will get you recorded for it. Yeah. But it may say that it's a Chat GPT webinar.
Yeah, that's the one we did yesterday. But we are going to have the guy from Vmix on. We're going to talk about software encoders, and then we're also going to have him on to talk a little bit about Vmix. So I'm getting us off track here. Sorry, but is Vmix better than OBS? I like Vmix a lot. Now, I have found personally, I don't know about you guys, but I have found that OBS seems to use less resources on my computer than Vmix does. That's just me. You guys have any feedback on that?
Yeah, I mean, I personally, I switched over from Wirecast to Vmix just because, like, right now I'm running. I mean, Greg, I don't know what you're running at with Vmix, but I'm running like 20% CPU, and I'm running out 1080p to 5 destinations and powering the TV behind me. I'm powering monitors in front of me. And listen, OBS is great for what it is, but it's free. You get what you paid for. I hate to say that. I hate to be that guy, and I'm not trying to be a salesman here, because I pay for Vmix just like everybody else, right? I don't get any special treatment. You get what you pay for. So you get free OBS. You're dealing with independent developers. You're dealing with community-driven efforts. Things don't get fixed right away, and you may have other issues that come up, incompatibilities. Vmix is more just like Wirecast. They're both, they've got dedicated developers and engineers that work and test. They have QA teams that go through before anything's released, just kind of like what we do with the cameras. So
I'm running through Vmix. For me, it's worked better than OBS, but It could be different situations. OBS is good, but for me, Vmix, I can tell you right now, I do a nightly stream regard to Ukraine and current events. And I'm on my nightly stream setup. I've got 71 inputs right now, and GPU at 29%, CPU Vmix at 4%, 0 drop frames, and I'm happy with it.
So I look forward to that webinar you guys are going to do. I'm definitely going to
Yeah.
be tuning into that
We'll check it out.
because
Yeah.
So,
if somebody wants to sign, you can just send us an email. I mean, I don't know, like Steve was saying, and it's not up there yet, but because we just did the other one yesterday, but you can just send us an email, support@streamingchurch.tv, and say, I want to sign up for the webinar, and we'll, the Vmix webinar. It's actually software encoder webinar, but Vmix is going to be there.
I want to know how you get 71 inputs into Vmix.
Greg,
Yeah, that is a good question.
100.
Greg's insane. He's got it show. I thought I was
I'm
bad.
running
I have
lots
like
of
30
videos that I've translated from Russian into English and overlays and tons of. Steven took me down the dark hole of streaming. That's the problem.
Yeah,
that's
the
wonderful.
dark side.
Well,
Wow, that is amazing.
Well, it's good because I have the tendency. I don't know, Greg. I've trained him to where before a show, reboot your computer. Well, I don't take my own advice sometimes. I just run it and run it and run it and run it until it gives me a problem, and it sits there for 4 months on end. And I know that's bad. Do as I say, not as I do. Right. But other software that I've used in the past, it's like if you didn't reboot, you were gonna guarantee have a problem during the show. And so even with OBS, everyone's like a tool in a toolbox. I use everyone for different things, but the reality is like I love Vmix. It works.
Yeah.
It works great. I mean, I use the TriCaster to do switching, and then I feed it into Vmix, which then outputs everything. So all my call-in systems go into the TriCaster. We switch everything and then just feed it out NDI to Vmix. But it also gives me the ability to pull up social comments like so. I can pull that. That's actually coming from Vmix to the TriCaster, then back out to the stream. So we're able to.
Well, here's the thing I appreciate about Vmix, and I know this is not a program about Vmix, but the conversation went that way. A, they are good guys. Martin, Tim, all those guys. B, they're supportive of the Christian community. C, you're not looking at, if you go to YouTube and you want to learn something about OBS, you're going to see 1,000 videos where a guy has said, well, this is the best way to do it. And then the next video, this is the best way to do it. And they're doing completely opposite things. Vmix offers their support, their tutorials, their forums, and you can really master a software from the guys who wrote it. So it's just logical.
Yeah,
that's a really good point, Greg. And we try to get a preset on OBS. We're a preset on Vmix. You know, you can drop down and select streamingchurch.tv. Same way with Wirecast. But Steve, you were telling me, weren't you? This a few years ago, we tried to get on OBS as a preset. They basically said no.
Wow.
Yeah. They weren't supportive of us being one of the presets, and actually readdressed it several years later, and they again said no, we're not interested. So I don't know if there's some bias against having a kind of Christian community in there or what, but they didn't really give a reason for it because there's a lot of presets in there.
No. But we still will tell people. I mean, we get people asking all the time, and we say, well, OBS is free, it's open source, and it is workable. Was that question, Greg? Did you pull something up? Was there a question about, is it better than a hardware encoder? Did I see that on the Zoom here?
Stephen pulled that up from Facebook.
Oh, okay. Is somebody asking?
I'm not sure if I'll pull the comment back up here. My MacBook just pulled back up so I can actually see the comments back here. from
because we are going to do a webinar. We're self-glossing here today, but we are going to do a webinar on hardware encoders in June.
Well, so he wanted to know, so Vmix is better than OBS for live streaming. Is it still a good idea to use an external encoder for live streaming? And I mean, Vmix is your encoder. I'm the anomaly, okay? I'm the 0.01% of live streamers that say don't put all your eggs in one basket. My thing is, like, for instance, streamingchurch.tv. They do and excel at what they're good at, and that is taking your video and distributing it to the cloud so people can watch it, right? They're not getting into the live switching scene where they're making software to switch because their forte is this, right? So I take everybody, what they excel at, and I have multiple machines set up, and they do just that. So in this instance, when I had Zoom crash on me and the MacBook and it rebooted, I had another machine ready to go. I was up in like 2 minutes. I couldn't get up right when I wanted to because the countdown was going, the intro was going, everything was going. So I had to wait till that was done. If you put all your eggs in one basket on one machine and have your encoder and your switcher, you could run into problems. In a studio environment, I have that ability to have something switching and something encoding. Greg, you do everything on one machine and you have zero problems.
I do, but I run a separate encoder machine. I use my one machine that is my switcher with Vmix on it, and all the production, it's just, I'm surrounded by this stuff right now, for emergencies. But set up live streams, I'm actually using another computer as an external encoder. So on that, I'm also running central control and synergy for the keyboard, going between the monitors. So it does help.
I have created a monster.
I could run this Vmix right now. This computer was built in early 2020. It's got a 2060 graphics card in it. It could handle stream, not even pan.
Do you guys recommend people having backup machines or any kind of backup solution anytime, they're streaming when they call it, say, is this going to be 100%?
We're lucky if they have a computer.
Well, no, and it's funny you say that, but that's the God's honest truth.
We run into a lot of times where, Phil mentioned checking CPU loads. It's because we're running the overhead slides and we're encoding, we're video switching, we're doing all this stuff on the same computer. And that's where they run into problems. So a lot of the churches are very budget minded and don't have the ability to have backups. We definitely would recommend it, but a lot of times it's a luxury.
But Steve, you mentioned something we do recommend that people just use that computer for streaming. And so if they're going to run ProPresenter,
use a different
or some
machine.
other things, use a different machine. And we do say that we do push that a lot. And please don't just overload this computer. And we also encourage people really not to do anything with it during the week. I mean, hey, Stephen, this. I mean, youth groups sometimes will get on it, and then that screws everything up, and there's malware and who knows what else is on there. And we've had weird, I mean, you're talking about what kind of weird calls have we had or something earlier on? I mean, we had somebody that was talking to me, well, I've got porn on my computer now. I'm like, didn't come from us. I mean, you need to check out who else has got access to your computer there at the church, because people are humans but so we do recommend other computers if you're using software, to do that. And we've got some people that use hardware-based live encoders, and they do have something on their hardware-based encoders. Did I say computers? Encoders. And then they do have like another computer that does have VBS, OBS, or Vmix on it. So, but a lot of people, once they start using hardware, they really like it better than they do, the software.
That's kind of how I am. I like my hardware switcher. I do like the software. If I had to go to it, I would, but there's just there's something about that. But what Phil, you said something about not using your computer for anything else, because most of these softwares recommend not putting on antivirus. Well, what do you mean? I got a PC. I have to put antivirus on. Do you realize that antivirus is probably 90% of your problems when you can't stream? And you're calling these poor guys up saying, hey, I can't stream out of my OBS to streamingchurch.tv. You can thank Norton and McAfee and all these other guys for that. I'm telling you, 90% of your problem streaming is antivirus. That's why you should not use it. Like, I have a PC that's just dedicated to streaming. The Wirecast Gearbox. It does nothing else. Nothing else on my network. It just streams. It runs Vmix. It runs Wirecast.
This is why, for example, the webinar that we're hearing about from Streaming Church TV.tv is going to be good from Phil and Steve, because it comes down to education. It comes down to understanding that media, technical, worship, sound, streaming is ministry. And there has to be a priority on it. There has to be education on it. There has to be a protocol. There has to be security. Our entire media room, which you know, Stephen, is a double decker, is completely locked. Only certain people have access. We run everything NDI, ProPresenter on the Big Mac. We actually stream and encode Vmix to multiple sites through our encoder machine and Vmix. Everything is all updated, connected. And we have one guy that's responsible for all of it. And then under him, those that are operating machines. So if you do not, I don't want to use the word care because people care, but if you do not prioritize that ministry and understand that you can't play with it and it's serious, it's no different than a pastor preparing for his message. He's prepared everything. He's dotted his I's and crossed his T's, the worship department, Sunday school teachers, whatever. Well, the same priority and protocol must be for the media and tech team. Has to be.
It's funny you say that. We had a guy that used to attend our church, and he decided one Sunday, while nobody was around, it was in between, after the worship team practiced and all the upcoming events were playing on the screen. He decided he was going to take it upon himself that the worship practice was too loud, so that means worship was going to be too loud. So he decided he was going to go up and turn the volume down on the mixer. He claimed to be an audio engineer, at least that's what he told us, but never asked us. Just went up and turned it down. We started to play and was like, people are like, we can't hear anything. All we hear is drums. Like this is not right. So our sound guy's up there like, what is going on? This happened multiple weeks before I was like, all right, I'm getting a webcam program that's going to, second it notices movement, it's going to record that person. And I caught this guy gooning right at the webcam. He didn't even realize it was on. And he's up there changing slides in ProPresenter, and he's up there adjusting things. And let's just say our senior pastor was not happy. But because I would get in there and we would look at each other like, I didn't change that. And the guy I was training, he's like, I swear, I don't change anything unless I ask you. Like, I didn't touch anything. And the senior pastor was like, I don't know nothing about it.
At the outside of our media room.
Well, he got the key. We had a key in the drawer in the pastor's office. He just walked right in, grabbed the key, and went and unlocked. We used to have like this fire escape drop ladder, and we had it locked because we had a small room. Well, Greg, you've been up there. It used to be that just tiny small room. Well, yeah, he decided he wasn't going to have it. He just went up and did he was changing everything. My mix and my headset was all screwed up. So to your point, don't just take anybody's word for it that they know what they're doing, and don't allow them you got to take this stuff serious and
you do really
plan it out.
And I would say too, budget's always an issue, right? So when somebody says, well, I don't have the money to buy another computer, I don't have it. And look, we get that. I get that because I've helped start churches and I know what it means not to have money. But priorities, as Greg is talking about here. So, all right, despise not small beginnings, right? So start small, but prioritize your budget so that, okay, coming up here, we're going to save some money to get this piece of equipment or to get this extra computer or to do something there. I know it's hard. Budget's hard, you know, especially these days, but you can do it. You can start small and you can build out, and then you can, you know, and it all comes down to your priorities, right? What are you going to spend your money on?
Absolutely. We got Bill Dawson in the chat room. He posted a comment. He says, I use OBS at church and love it, although it's important to have an NVIDIA card. I would say that with any streaming software. A plugin allows multiple streams, NDI, etc. Yeah, NVIDIA has like a prioritization, if you will, in the software, for lack of better explanation. It allows you to send out multiple over NVENC, which is the encoding process, for using the GPU as the processor instead of the CPU, so it lowers your CPU. So great tip, Bill. Really appreciate that. Sending that in. Anybody else on the Zoom call? You guys got questions? Throw it out there. Do you want to comment? Do you want to add a tip? Throw it out there. Like you know, we've got another 15 minutes left in the show, so feel free.
I got a question. What is that plugin that allows OBS to send multiple streams? I'm not familiar with it.
So NVIDIA has their own. I don't know if he's referring to that one where like you can go in, it's an app that you download, or if this is an actual plugin for OBS. So if it is an actual plugin, Bill, if you can post the link in the chat room, that'd be awesome.
I know there's like some workaround OBS did. You could do something with OBS to send multiple streams. That was years ago, but it seemed kind of a challenge.
It was,
It still works. The multiple RTMP stream plugin. It still works on OBS. It's called multiple RTMP. I've used it quite a lot.
Okay.
Although there have been a couple of updates. There have been a few updates that's been at least considerably improved over the years.
Yeah, you could still use multiple outputs in OBS. I think they have like Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, and then RTMP in it.
well, not simultaneously though.
Oh yeah.
Simultaneously.
Oh, okay.
Simultaneous,
so
you can send multiple destinations.
So I think up to
Yes,
two destinations. I think
yes.
you could do at simultaneously. I'd have to double check because I use so Greg.
Actually, more than two.
Greg, you also use
More than two, actually.
you use Restream.io.
Yeah, so
There's a plugin
with
for that
Vmix,
where you can
go to 3, and Restream you can go to with the mid plan you can go to 8.
and there's an OBS plugin for it, so it
Yeah, and
shows
there's
up
an
in your
OBS plugin.
OBS, and you just
Mhm.
highlight
Yeah,
all
but
your
you're-
destination.
You're using a third party though, right?
It is.
Yes.
It's a third party. Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
yeah. Otherwise,
Third
I was
party.
going to have to update my OBS. It's like, well, I didn't know.
Well,
that.
OBS, I'm pretty sure you could still go to at least 2 destinations in the
Really
latest
can.
build. I could have
Really?
sworn you could. I have to
Yes.
double check.
That would be big news because that's one
Yeah.
of the major constraints with OBS is it's one, I mean, out of the box without a plug-in or without any special hardware, it's one destination.
Yeah.
But yeah, that would be awesome because that's one of the things
Really?
that sets it apart.
Phil, your
Yeah.
brother in the chat room, Eric Thompson, says, I have one PC that only is for broadcasting, a laptop to control cameras and runs music and videos for the stream, and in an emergency doubles as a quick backup for broadcast. He's not really Phil's brother, but they had the same last name. So
Might be.
he
You
could
never
be.
know.
Long lost brother. So, yeah, you definitely want to have, and I'm not saying you have to go out and have, 10 computers or 7 computers like I have, but you really should have some sort of backup solution, some way to stream besides pulling out your phone. That should be a last ditch effort.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we deal with a lot of people they don't find out they need the backup until
Till it's too late.
it's three minutes into the service, and so they're scrambling, and yeah, it's usually when they decide I need to get a backup that I can really switch to really quickly to next weekend.
Well, I think the
So-
preventive maintenance, right? I mean, if you can't afford a backup, at least do preventive maintenance. And that is, I mean, at the one church I was working at, nobody did anything all week. And then they'd boot the computer up a few minutes before the service started. Well, if you don't do anything all week, and then, in this case, it was Windows, Steve Lacy's favorite operating system. I'm being sarcastic there, but it would push an update, or somebody would keep pushing the update back, update later. And then, 2 minutes before the service starts, Windows decides, yeah, you're going to take this update and you're going to like it. And 20 minutes, half hour later, you got a problem. So preventive maintenance, just like you do with your car and your air conditioning and everything else, your heater, preventive maintenance is important. So, do those things on your computer, and your chances of failure are less.
And we recommend them after the service.
Yes.
Yeah.
Another suggestion is, so the way we do it, and doesn't make it right, but it's a suggestion to tag on Phil there. First of all, turn off automatic updates if you're especially on a PC. Be done with that. You turn it off.
Rub it in.
Yeah. B. So we have 2 services on Sunday. We only live stream our second service, but our first service, our entire media and streaming team is there. They're streaming it to a dead site, to an unlisted. We're testing everything, and we make sure everything is golden. And then when it's time for second service, there's, typically no problems and everything's smooth. You may be here today and say, well, we only have 1 service. No problem. Do you have a band rehearsal or something else happening during the week? If you do, ask your team to be there. Stream 30 minutes of it. So we don't want to broadcast that. No, unlist it, stream it to a dead site, and check everything. You have a lot more comfort come Sunday morning or Saturday night or whenever your worship celebration is. So find a way to pre-stream your real stream somehow.
Yeah, we do a run through at our church, and it's amazing the amount of problems that are uncovered during the run through. They're not all technical. They're typically not streaming, but we're like, oh my gosh, if this service is going to go like this run through did, we're in trouble. And it's usually the rest of the services are great, because we did go through and find out that, audio on Singer 3 was completely hosed up, or the camera was deciding it wanted to point at the ceiling, halfway through the service or stuff like that.
Yeah. And that goes back to what Greg's saying, priorities, right? So if you really think this is important, you need to plan for it, and you need to do the run throughs like Steve Lacey's saying here. That is so important. I mean, just getting prepared, and that means time. And I know that's rough on volunteers, right? Volunteers like, oh, I have to get there early. I understand that, but is this important? Is streaming important? Is what you're going to do, is that going to maybe change some lives out there? Is it going to have an impact on people's lives? Do you think it's important? So if it is, maybe it's worth getting there an extra hour earlier to make sure everything's going to work.
One of the things I want to do in the future, and you guys might be able to chime in on this too, is I know a lot of people, they've emailed us, me particularly for this, is copyright. Now with the bots that are on YouTube, Facebook, they don't even think there's not a real person scanning that. And a lot of times they'll pull your stream, and then you have to wait a week for them to evaluate it and say, oops, we made a mistake. We accidentally pulled down. So I want to get somebody from CCLI to come on and talk about, but do you guys run into issues at streamingchurch.tv with these types of issues with people playing videos for their sermons, or even streaming their worship, and obviously you guys aren't pulling it down, but what are the requirements on your end? I mean, are you just kind of like, hey, it's on the person that's streaming it to know that what they can and cannot stream, doesn't fall on us? How do you guys handle that?
Well, we encourage, I don't know if Steve wants to jump in here, but we encourage everybody to get a CCLI streaming license.
Yes, we do that.
Take care of all that stuff. As far as the other things go, we're not going to do anything. We consider it your content. I mean, unless it's just inappropriate, which I don't think we've ever run into that, but I mean, I'm not saying we wouldn't, but I don't think we've ever run into that yet. But, obviously when they're on Facebook, when the stream ends up going to Facebook or YouTube or something else, that's when the problems usually arise. Steve, you have anything else to add to that?
I mean, we get a lot of our customers that come to us because I'm so tired of getting taken down by Facebook. I have my license. I'm fighting this battle, and it's never ending. And so, we don't monitor the content they're streaming. We're not going to take their stuff down. So if they're streaming to their website, they can breathe easier. But it's an issue with the free services.
We have a plan. We have several plans. And one of the plans is, you send the stream to us and it'll also not only go to your website through us, but it'll also go to Facebook and YouTube. I'm meeting with the guy here in a few minutes and he's off that plan now because he was having issues with Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was Facebook. And so he's off that plan. He don't want to go to Facebook anymore. And so, it's rough because there's lots of people on Facebook, lots of people on Twitter and YouTube and other places. But we recommend that your website, your church website, be the hub.
Yes.
So in my opinion, you need to send people really needs to go to your website because that's where your content is. Mm-hmm. That's where they're not going to get distracted by other stuff. And so to me, it's the website's the most important.
Well, and this goes back to, Greg, what you and I talked about just even before with the Vmix and the OBS. You get what you pay for, right? And so many guys don't realize YouTube's free, Twitch is free, Facebook is free. And so they're in control of your destiny. And these solutions like streamingchurch.tv, you're in control of your destiny because, like Phil just said, you can put it on your website. And you're policing your own content. You've done your due diligence. You got your CCLI license. You know everything you're streaming is on the up and up. You're not subject to a bot yanking your stuff down, right?
Yeah, and the other thing, Stephen, the only thing I would just tag on to Phil there, and I know they do this, but not only for computer streaming your services, but a majority of folks today are watching on mobile devices. Mm-hmm. So having that place, your website that is also mobile friendly for watching on a phone or watching on an iPad, this is the ticket. I know I'm making Phil happy.
Sure. No, that's to me, that's beneficial for those in ministry. I mean, that's where you want them to be, and you want them to see,
That's where your volunteers are, so they can do ministry, for those watching the stream.
Yeah, and that's kind of why, like, I know I talked with Greg, and we want to do more of these open forum Zoom shows that are, I like to say they're chaotic, but it's organized chaos because you just never know what we're going to talk about, right? We don't know. We let the community kind of drive what we're talking about. We get on these tangents and talk about it. But I think it's good because then it gives the audience and the people in the Zoom, the people that are in the chat, information that they needed, right? It's not just like something Greg and I said, well, let's just talk about this because we know it's an issue. This gives us an opportunity to connect with you guys on a personal level, but not just a name in a chat. And so we want to continue doing this. We want to do this probably in a couple months.
Yeah, this was nice.
And so we're going to have to wrap this up here, but I want to thank the guys over at streamingchurch.tv. If you have not checked it out, I'm going to pull it up here in just a second. You guys can go over there. They're going to be with us next month, the second Wednesday. We've moved the show to Wednesdays now. It works better for Greg and us. So you can go over to streamingchurch.tv. You can try it out, book a demo, talk to Phil, talk to Steve, tell them what you're looking for. Tell them you need to get off these free platforms because you're tired of them yanking your stuff down. And next month, they're going to give us a dive into it. Maybe you're not sure. Maybe you want to see what it's all about. Next month, they're going to walk us through, show us some of the features, show us some of the benefits. Maybe you're looking for a Roku channel, right? They're partners of us over here at PTZOptics, man, being able to have the best cameras, the best delivery network. Start your 30-day free trial. They've got a bunch of different options, $79 all the way up to $179. Hey, you get out what you put in, right? I don't know, Phil. Sound like a good ad?
Month, to be honest.
Thank you.
I think it's
we
good.
appreciate
looking
that.
forward to this.
Yeah, and it's a privilege to be with you guys. Thank you for inviting us. We're very grateful.
Yes.
And they can reach out to you guys, support at streamingchurch.tv, correct?
Yep. That's the one. That's the place to go.
Anybody else on the Zoom panel? Any parting words? Anything that you want to say? Say it now or forever hold your peace. Or feel free. You can unmute yourself and maybe you just want to plug your church. Maybe you just want to give a comment or two on the conversation. Feel free.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'll do something here because I'm looking monitoring the Zoom room as well.
Yes, sir.
And it's just cool. I see Kenneth here sitting in his car in Oklahoma, and I see Dayo Adeye. I have no idea where you're at, sir, but you're definitely not in Oklahoma.
Lagos, Nigeria.
Lagos, Nigeria. So this is the beauty of being able to reach people globally. So bless you there in Lagos, Dayo, and Kenneth there in Oklahoma.
God bless you. I appreciate all the good work you do. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Well,
he didn't sound like he had an Oklahoma accent. Didn't sound that way.
That's not an Oklahoma accent.
Well, do me a favor, guys. If you enjoyed the Zoom and you want to do more of this, and we want to get more engagement. I know a lot of you guys like to come into Zoom and just listen, and that's cool too. If you don't want to be on video, you don't have to turn your camera on. You could just leave audio on and just ask a question as if it's a radio station. Give us some feedback. Leave a comment in the chat room below. This is our first attempt at doing this mixture, and believe me, I will have it ironed out 100% for the next time. I don't make that same mistake twice.
No, he doesn't.
So I will make sure to have that on my part, that there's no updates happening, Greg, when that goes on.
Well, it was not only the update, but for you guys watching here now as we get to the end of the stream today, the reality is Steven's game room was in the way of getting to the computer. He had to run around Donkey Kong and Dig Dug to get there, but he finally got there to reset the computer.
Listen, as funny as you should say that, if I had one of the behind the scenes cameras on, it's good that Phil and Steve have done this before, because they were able to carry it. I ran over and I was making adjustments. I was making them full screen so you didn't have the bar. Dude, I got my steps in doing this show. Let me just tell you that. Okay, so
yes, you did.
But I appreciate that you guys in here. Make sure every Wednesday there's going to be something going on here with PTZ Optics as we move forward. There's going to be a different show, whether it's Tech Town Hall, whether it's this show, but every second Wednesday is going to be Salt Talk, and I think the last Wednesday of every month, the 31st, is when the PTZ Optics show, and I do believe they have a special announcement that they're doing at the end of this month. So you definitely don't want to miss that. That's going to be the last Wednesday. Also, check out Paul and Tess. They will be at NAB. They're going to be heading out this weekend. I believe they fly out Thursday or Friday, somewhere around there. They're going to be streaming on the Stream Geeks channel on YouTube. So if you don't subscribe, go subscribe, because they'll be live from the showroom floor with the NAB channel. They'll also be on the NAB webpage. You will be able to find out everything that you want to know about NAB with Paul and Tess. They'll be walking the floor. It's going to be a good weekend of content. So if you haven't done that, I'd encourage you to do so. Hit a like, hit a subscribe, follow us on all the social platforms, PTZOptics.com. If you have any questions of coverage that you want Greg or I to talk about, salttalk@PTZOptics.com is the email, and we will be happy to cover that going forward. But guys, appreciate you spending the time with us here, and we'll see you next month. Have a good week.